Let's talk about numbers in Stalker 2. All right, I'm so happy I found these. Thank you, Reddit, for this. This is awesome. All right, so hit point numbers, armor ratings, headshot multipliers. So for mutants, blind dog, 63 hit points, physical armor 1, headshot multiplier 1.5. So if you have, so we're gonna go over weapon stats in a second, briefly, because there's a lot, but essentially this changes a lot. According to this information, bloodsuckers have 500 base hit points, 2 physical armor, and no headshot multiplier, meaning going for headshots does not matter. Same thing with boars, except it's one time, so going for headshots does not matter. Burrs, 400 HP, 4 physical armor, 2 times headshot multiplier. Headshotting burrs matters. Cats, according to this, doesn't matter. So things you can headshot that are mutants, blind dogs, burrs, flesh, which are like those like weird 4-legged like spider leg dudes that are like huge. They almost look like boars, but like they're like flat faced and whatever. Snorks and zombies, if you want to consider zombies mutants. So interestingly, cats, chimeras, controllers, deer, poltergeist, and pseudo dogs, as well as pseudo giants, which sucks because 4,000 HP, cannot be headshotted. Now, I really wish chimera and pseudo giant could be headshotted. I feel like they should be able to be because they are bullet sponges and they are easy to fight, assuming you just get on top of something or get on top of something. They're both hard countered by being on top of something. But anyways, controllers, so headshotting controllers, according to this, doesn't matter. It should, but it seems to not. Because I've been headshotting controllers with like sniper rifles and stuff and like, you know, rhinos and things like this. Doesn't seem to matter. But their health is low enough that you just shoot them a few times, they'll die. Same thing with deer. But these are the health values. Also note the armor values. So physical armor. So like 4 would be like 4 to 5. So with like 3 penetration, I think you would still be dealing with, if it works like, if I have 3 bars of penetration, they have 4 of armor, it just takes away 3, then they would have 1 bar of armor, which would be, I think, a 10% damage reduction. But if you run armor penetrating rounds, you would hit like over max, because it's plus 50% penetration. So AP rounds push your penetration by, in theory, 2.5 bars. I think, or no. I think that actually be full. Never mind. It's 10% per. I think it's 10% per bar, so it should be in theory max penetration. But some guns have like 3 to 4 bars of penetration. They can shoot right through this armor. But note that all of the super mutants, or the mutants that have high health that are mini bosses, tend to also have high armor. But AP rounds are good against pretty much every mutant except for flesh, blind dog, boar, and big rats, which already get 1 shot. All right, and then for other things to note, NPC base, like humans have 100 health. This is according to someone, so we're assuming this is accurate. 100 health, and you have a 6 times headshot multiplier. And then zombies have 200 health, but have a 12 times headshot multiplier. So if you headshot a zombie, it pretty much always dies with most weapon types and ammo types. And if you headshot most humans with most weapons, unless they have heavy armor, most things will one-shot them. Some things will fail, and we'll get into that. So what we'll be focusing on, because there's a lot of information here, is what can one-shot headshot, what needs AP rounds, and we can talk about like efficiency and stuff like this. So Skiff's pistol, 30 base damage with armor penetrating rounds, should one-shot headshot throughout the entire game, which does make it really good as a silenced option, especially if... Now note its penetration isn't the highest, but if you're running AP rounds, its range is also pretty bad. So like compared to other options, it's really cheap though. It's very efficient. Like you can run this the entire game and there's really no downside to running it. I'm going to adjust my tier list. I was wrong on a lot of things and that's fine because it's after 1 playthrough. So I wasn't expecting to be right on everything. I wasn't expecting to be right on most things, but 30 damage with this good of efficiency, you could run this an entire playthrough. And if you only use it for stealth scenarios and at close range and not really against like tanky mutants, it's perfectly fine. 455 shots until it breaks. That's respectable. You can run Skiff's pistol all day. The other weapons like Labyrinth and the PTM, skip it because Skiff's pistol is the same thing but better, more or less. Labyrinth does have higher penetration, but whatever. Maybe it has an upgrade. Maybe it's base stats. Either way, it weighs you nothing. You should keep it. The UDP, 25 damage, still one-shot headshots. I think it has the same penetration value, and I think its range is similar. Yeah, its range is similar, its drop-off is similar. So it's not really, it's still kind of bad. Deadeye actually has less damage, which hurts. A unique with less damage. And same penetration, kind of bad. APS, I got a lot of pushback on APS. Now, the APS has very low efficiency. Efficiency is repair cost per damage output. This matters if you are not doing a lot of farming. And it matters in general, because objectively, if it costs me, 10,000 to repair a gun from like low percent to full versus another gun that might cost significantly less or is just more efficient with its ammo and damage, then I'm probably better off running other options. But it is a good gun. It does deal good damage, but it does break after 630 shots, and it's forced 3-round burst. Now, currently, if you lightly tap, you can shoot one shot, which is like a weird bug with burst fire weapons in Stalker and always has been. But if you light tap, you can shoot one shot. Like if you tap like really quickly and release and don't hold it in. So that's a thing you can do with this. But 20 base damage, you still will be one-shotting most things because that's 120 damage against like humans on a headshot. So with its penetration value of 3 out of 5 or 60% penetration, it can still take out a lot of things. It does have limited range, and its burst fire does allow it to basically always one tap or at least one burst with consecutive headshots, assuming you get the upgrades. The upgrades are expensive though. I do think I put this in like a low tier. It probably belongs in like high B or low A. I've been running it, and honestly, it's not really good against mutants. It's really expensive to run. Like, it's expensive to upgrade. In order to get the good upgrades, you have to drop like 60 grand, like in coupons. Like, it's crazy. Like 60K in coupons to like upgrade it to a point where it's performing. It's silenced though. Like, you can suppress it. But the Rhino and the Skiff's pistol, I still think outclass it. Skiff's pistol, I underrated. APS I did underrate, but I don't think it's as good as people are claiming. I think Skiff's pistol basically does everything it wants to do. Now that I know its base damage is 30 and the multiplier is 6, that changes everything. Now, if you're within its effective range, the Skiff's pistol is really good. But I still prefer the Rhino because it just has like sniper rifle range when it's upgraded. And its upgrades really aren't that expensive. They're a little bit cheaper than the APS is. Maybe it's like 40K to upgrade it to where you want it to get that like penetration increase and the range increase. But the Encourage, I know what you're thinking. This looks really good on paper. This isn't a point of no return only weapon. You can't run in the main game. So you can use it for like an hour when you're in the final missions. M10 Gordon, 10 base damage, but it is automatic. 1,000 shots before it breaks. Efficiency of 18%. So the main things I care about, all right, so gun health and durability. You're probably wondering what the hell is the difference. Gun health is how much damage a gun can take, like how much health it has total, but most importantly, how much damage it can accumulate from environmental damage. So if you walk into an anomaly, get hit by a grenade, get attacked by like melee attacks with your gun out, the gun will get damaged. And that health, the higher health is better. And the durability is just the rate at which it loses health, if I'm getting this right. So like 450 shots for the Rhino to go from 100 to 0, but if you start eating anomaly damage, they're like linked together basically. So if you were at 1500 health, you'd have 225 shots until 0 durability. All right, so M10 Gordon, 10 damage. Seems decent. 53 shots, kill Bloodsucker. I do like how it says how this is here. This is nice to know. Because you can kind of see like how a lot of these weapons really struggle against Bloodsuckers. The Rhino, not so much, because it's pretty easy to land like 4 shots on a 5 shots on a Bloodsucker with this thing. But the Rhino's base damage is 100, 450 shots until it breaks, but its base damage is really high. It always one-shots with like a headshot, no matter what, with base ammo, and its range is like much farther than other weapons, so like it'll just outperform like a Skiff's pistol at beyond Skiff's pistol's effective range, which one range is really close. Like you will rapidly not be one-tapping with Skiff's pistol as you like increase distance, which is a problem with the APS to some degree as well, because it has a burst fire. It can't really accurately burst at range. Like the further out the range is, the worse the burst becomes. So like in terms of like a consistent one-tapping pistol, the Rhino just on paper and in terms of efficiency, 45% efficiency for like a sniper rifle, a handheld sniper rifle that 5 shots a bloodsucker. But they also have to consider that being good at killing bloodsuckers is also like an abstract for fighting mutants. And most mutants, you want to peek and then shoot. You don't want to peek and just keep firing at them. Like if you peek a controller and keep shooting at it, it'll use its psi attack on you. If you peek, well, I guess if you peek a poltergeist, that's fine. Unload mag dumping a poltergeist is fine. But other things that are a problem, extended fire on like a pseudo giant that you're on the ground next to. It's easier just to land like 4 to 5 big shots than it is to land 20 small shots, because you have to land 20 shots. So unless you have like ungodly tracking, which I'm assuming you don't, because very few people do, it's just easier to kill things with like, you know, shotguns and burst damage weapons, because you just have to land a handful of good shots. So all of your attention and energy just goes on landing those shots. But like for controllers, you don't want to like hold a peek. For burrs, you don't want to just stand there and shoot them. So for the burr fight, I know a lot of people are like, oh, with Skiff's pistol, the burr can't pull it out of your hands, but you're also not going to kill the burr very efficiently, because as soon as you start damaging a burr, there's a short time window before they have an invincibility shield. And they go for the weapon rip, and you can't weapon rip Skiff's pistol. But with burrs, if you get, like, even if you just peek a corner and shoot them in the head with the Rhino, that's like 200 damage, and they have 400 health. So if you shoot them twice, you just kill it before it can even weapon rip. Or you bait the weapon rip, unpeek, like you peek to shoot, unpeek, and then the weapon rip doesn't hit you, and then you repeek and headshot them and just 2-tap them. So like there's several mutants that you don't want to be exposed to for long periods of time visually because of their mechanics, like the weapon rip or the controller attack. So I don't really find, you know, putting 53 shots into a bloodsucker. And bloodsuckers, you have a short time window to kill them, because they're running around invis, and when they're running invis, especially through tall grass, they're very hard to track. Like you almost can't even see them when they're in tall grass invis, because they're low to the ground and they're like a blur. And you can see them when they're rushing you, but unloading like a ton of shots is just not really a thing. All right, SMGs is going to be surprising. Shaw's Mate, low-key, highest damage SMG. Upgraded with the 45, 31 damage. Pretty good efficiency on it. Does have low weapon health, which hurts it in endgame or in general, because if you run into it, if you're like me, and you probably are, you run into whirlwinds all the time because they're really fucking hard to see. If you're anything like me, you are constantly running into the whirlwind anomaly, because there are constantly leaves blowing and weather effects and lightning and like your average day in the zone with like the wind blowing and the leave of like VFX everywhere and the lightning sound effects. You can't hear them very well, and it's nighttime, you can't see them very well, and you're constantly eating whirlwind damage. Now, I don't have my weapons out when exploring. I just have my scanner out and nuts or like the bolts or whatever, or the bolts. And that prevents the damage from getting through, I'm pretty sure. But it's really easy to accidentally walk into those, and sometimes it can be easy to walk into the vortex ones that suck you in. I can't remember the name of them, but they can be kind of hard to tell sometimes, like when you're just like running at night and there's just like a bunch of VFX everywhere. It can be hard to see them. But the low weapon health does hurt it. But if you're really careful and you never bump into anomalies and you're like a true stalker, you could easily run this. You have insanely high base damage, really good efficiency, good amount of shots before it breaks, really good capacity. Shaw's Mate's easy to get. You can get it early. It's just a really good weapon, one taps. Its penetration is only 20%, but you could run AP rounds. Now against mutants, it's actually really good. 16 shots with the 45 upgrade at 732 RPM. You can easily mow down a bloodsucker in 16 shots with this thing, or even 19. The ones that are above 20, it's going to be harder to take them out for some of these guns, but Viper and Shaw's Mate are actually surprisingly high base damage and pretty controllable and pretty good. Weirdly, they have the same damage as guns that are shooting higher, like larger rounds that have more gunpowder and like are faster bullets with more kinetic impact, but whatever. So, all right, so the AK-74U and the AK-74S. So 19 base damage, 23 base damage. Efficiency is fair. Also note the Valak Lummox AKM has fewer shots before it breaks. And 8. So, all right, let me explain why this weapon is still fine. A lot of people are like, oh my god, it breaks faster and 18 damage. What the hell? All right, let's do basic math. I'm a huge fan of basic math. Huge fan. All right, 18 damage times 6. That's lethal. Calm the hell down. It's fine. You are not meant to use this weapon full auto ever. What it's supposed to be is a one-shot headshot humanoid killer with a scope. That is what it does. That is what it's good at. You can use AP rounds to like kill heavily armored targets still. It is an early scoped weapon that is a DMR. You're not supposed to mag dump bloodsuckers with this. That's stupid. Don't do that. It's a DMR. It's still one shots against unarmored. It's still one taps at good ranges. That is the point of this weapon. They didn't balance it poorly. Calm the hell down, everyone. Calm the hell down, all right? All right, the Combaton has higher durability. I think this is the one you need to repair. 23 base damage, similar efficiency. It's fine. The AR-416, interestingly, has a little bit less, significantly less base damage. All right, this actually matters. This matters. All right, so 16 is a breakpoint you actually need to be worried about because that does not one-shot. So a gun that does 16 base damage, 6 times headshot multiplier against 0 armor is not one-shotting. Very important. AR-416 is mid for this reason. All right, the clusterfuck, however, a lot of people are like, oh, what about the clusterfuck? It's a DMR. It will one-tap. 600 rounds till it breaks, which is fine because it's a DMR. Do not go full auto on a bloodsucker. Very stupid. Don't do that. So these are DMRs, designated marksmanship rifles, or marksman rifle, or whatever, meaning it's like a semi-automatic, or should be used as a semi-automatic that can, one tap, or it's a precision weapon that's not meant for full auto, is the point. But pretty good weapon. 600 rounds is fine if you're only going for precise single target, single fire headshots. 34 damage, very respectable. Easily hits the breakpoint. Should be one tapping fully armored targets with its 40% penetration. With base ammo, because 34 times 6 is a big number. Yeah, 204. It's one-shotting things easily with base ammo, which also helps it reduce on wear and tear, because you run AP rounds, you get 70% of your durability. AP rounds, armor-penetrating rounds, cost you 30% more wear and tear. So if you have, for example, 1,063 shots until you break, you can only fire 70% of that. So easiest way to figure out how many AP rounds you can fire before your weapon breaks is multiply the weapon's shots from 100% to 0%, if you're at 100%, by 0.7, and that's the value you should get. All right, GP37 does not one-tap headshot at 16 base damage. 40221 barely does. The upgrade actually reduces its damage below one-tap headshotting. So GP37, I think, gets bumped down to B tier. If I were to re-tier, I'm going to be doing my tier list over. I've made a lot of mistakes with that. But we'll get into that in a future thing. All right, other weapons. So the Decider, 20 base damage. Seems decent. Grom S, the Grom one-taps, but it does shoot ammo that's less common than a lot of the other assault rifles. The Vintar has decent durability. It does one tap. It's suppressed. It's like a DMR that's suppressed. Against mutants, it's not the best, and you shouldn't be mag dumping mutants with it because you'll quickly burn through its durability faster than you would think. Anything auto or semi-auto, if you start mag dumping mutants with it, you're gonna burn through those things. Don't do that. Use a shotgun or like some other, like a Shaw's mate or some SMG or other assault rifle. Okay, so the Grom upgrade 5.5, or the 5.45 upgrade, gives you more durability, same damage, which is typically the case. The Khad, the Merc is basically similar. The Khad, 18 damage, which does one tap with armor penetrating rounds. You can one tap an endgame, and if you switch to the 545 with armor penetrating rounds, you basically will have 1500 rounds before it breaks with AP rounds, which is not bad. So the 545 upgrade is worth it because of the increase in durability, and that's it. And the ammo, both the ammo types, 556, 545, quite common. 545 I feel like is a little bit more common, but they're both so common that you can easily get them from vendors, easily get them from stashes, easily get them from drops. But the Khad does one tap with either, especially with AP rounds. It also has base penetration of 60, and it also has better range and better ballistics, like less drop, than the Dnipro. And most importantly, it can get the hole puncher attached to it. The G37, the GP37 can also get the hole puncher attached to it, or the hole maker. However, it does not one-tap headshot ever against humans because of its low base damage, even with AP rounds. Now, with expansive rounds, it probably can, but those are pretty uncommon, so can't really say it's higher than B tier. Maybe low A because the boomstick, the hole maker is just so good. We'll go over the hole maker in a second. But the Khad has like average efficiency, but the most important thing is the hole maker right now is insane. And I don't think it needs nerfed either because it's expensive to get. You have to carry extra ammo. It adds to weapon weight. There's like trade-offs. It's only good at close range because its range is 1. So anything beyond super close range does like no damage. So it does seem balanced. It's limited to what weapons it can be applied to. The S.T.A.L.K.E.R, I said this was mid, 20 base damage, 25 shots kill Bloodsucker, bad ammo efficiency, bad base stats. You just suppress something better, honestly. 20 damage is low. At least the Vintar has 35 base damage, which makes it a little bit better against mutants. The nice thing about the Khad, though, is that the hole maker is really good at fighting mutants, and I'll do some basic mutant math to prove that. And also I've used it, so I know for a fact it's good on veteran mode against mutants. But the trophy, similar, it just has more durability. There's the S.T.A.L.K.E.R. S.T.A.L.K.E.R. is mid, like low B tier, high C tier. Dnipro. Now, the main claim to fame here is that it has high base damage, and with the 7.62 upgrade, it has even higher base damage. However, 7.62 ammo... Let me just double check that this is the sniper ammo. Pretty sure it is, right? Okay, this is the LMG, or no. Oh, no, it is. It's the LMG ammo. Okay. This is pretty common. For some reason, I was thinking it was the SVD ammo. It's pretty common. All right, so the 7.62 upgrade is fine. The ammo's common. You do lose a little bit durability, but not much. It's still a respectable amount. This is a really good gun for just one-shotting humans. And against mutants, 17 shots full auto is not bad for killing a Bloodsucker. Like anything... Like for full autos, if it's under 20, I would consider it decent. Because you have to have really good tracking to track Bloodsuckers, and you have small time windows to shoot them. But you can shoot them as they're running up to you. So the main thing I've been doing lately is when I see that it's charging me, I'll shoot it while it's invis before it leaps, move to the side after it leaps, and then shoot it some more. So you probably could drop it in 22 to 17 shots easily. So the main claim to fame for the Dnipro is with upgrades, it has low recoil, really good range, good penetration. It's similar to the Khad, except it has higher damage. But the Khad also has the hole maker, which does not use durability and is like having a Saiga with 4 to 5 rounds loaded per magazine attached to your gun. So I do think the Khad is better because it still does everything the Dnipro wants to do, but I don't think the upgrade matters. 29 base damage, you're probably one-shotting with base ammo without using AP ammo, but like the durability on these guns is so high. Like this, like 1900 durability, like shots before it breaks. If I'm only on single fire mode, specifically singling out headshots and then switching to the hole maker when I'm fighting mutants, or switching to like a Rhino or like an M701 or something else, or a Saiga, this thing is gonna never break. Like it's gonna, if I'm in a firefight with 200 enemies and I shoot 300 shots to kill them all, like assuming I miss, 33% of my shots or whatever, I still have a shit ton of durability left. So like, I feel like the trade-offs like losing a shotgun attachment, I still think the Knee Pro, it's probably just A tier. Because it's like, I don't know, it's hard for me to say it's S. Because like one-shotting like humans, like a lot of things do that. It needs more. It needs to be good against mutants too. It's decent against mutants. 17 shots is not bad. But also the Shaw's mate, weirdly. 16 shots, the Shaw's made up damage. It does have lower penetration though. So it probably would, you know, that would factor in. But maybe it is low S tier. I'll give it to you. I'll say it's low S tier. Because as cheap ammo, upgrades aren't too bad. It is kind of hard to find. Yeah, there's probably place ones you can find early. That's not really true. All right, RPM 74. 20 base damage. High capacity. Efficiency is okay. 25. Like, it's not really good at fighting mutants. Most mutant fights boil down, unless you're on top of high ground shooting something from high ground, most mutant fights boil down to you like having small time windows to shoot a mutant and then you're reloading or healing. So if you're fighting like bloodsuckers, you are typically shooting them as they're approaching you and then moving out of the way and then shooting them. Or if you got accidentally hit by their melee attack, you're healing, and then in between shooting them, you're usually repositioning and reloading. So you can't just keep firing against them. And same thing with like humans. Like if you are in a firefight with a bunch of enemies and you just keep shooting and you're exposed, you're eating damage because enemies have like laser accuracy, and as soon as you're visible, you just start eating bullet damage from whatever range they're at. Like even enemies with shotguns are going to be shooting you from across the map accurately. So it's like, now there's spread, so like a lot of those shots will miss, but they'll still be hitting you. So like this idea that you can just be exposed on veteran mode, just like firing forever. You like, the point is burst damage kind of is king. Burst damage is really good, and if you can indirectly, now you could shoot through cover. That's a thing. Maybe that's like the use case, but it's like a decent weapon. It seems fine. I don't really have any negative opinions on it. It seems like it's still one-shot headshot. It's okay against mutants. Could be better. There's better options, but it's not bad. All right, the shotguns are where things get crazy. First of all, look at these efficiencies compared to other weapon types. The Viper is weirdly super efficient, probably because it's cheap. So it's like cheap to repair. But Skiff's pistol, most efficient pistol. Or I'm sorry, the PTM. For efficiency on Skiff's pistol, it says Skiff's pistol is probably more efficient than the PTM because it costs less. I think it's worth less, so it costs almost nothing to repair. In a lot of cases, it's like almost free to repair. So Skiff's pistol efficiency is really high. You could argue it's S tier if you're only using it at close range and its efficiency. I would actually agree with that. I underrated it. But for SMGs, Viper is super efficient. For the shotguns, the boomstick has the highest efficiency in the game. If you can master this thing, you will save so much money. It is ridiculous. However, it is really hard to use, and if you miss a shot, like its buckshot is not accurate because it has wide spread because it's a short barrel, and its slugs do not kill past close range because of its range stat. So it's hard to use efficiently. But it has almost 600% efficiency. 150 damage. So all the shotguns have really high damage. Let's talk about the Holemaker really quick. Holemaker does have 1.5 kilogram weight. It only shoots buckshot. It has 140 base damage. Has 4 shots loaded. This is 4 shots to kill a bloodsucker, but you can have a 5th shot loaded if you have a single shot loaded in. You reload. 40% armor penetration. And it has a range of 1. It has a really steep drop off. So it's only good at like 1 range and closer, and it can typically one-shot headshot pretty much anything in the game, like human-wise, at close range, including like super heavily armored enemies. Obviously not bosses, because the bosses have more health. So the boomstick is decent. The TOZ, the boomstick is decent in terms of efficiency. Its penetration's bad, and it's hard to get close range in certain firefights. Some enemies are just far away and you have to close distance, which makes it a little bit worse. TOZ has a little bit better range. Same 150 damage. Both have 600 shots until they break. The M860, a little bit higher damage. A little less efficiency, but still pretty good. 3 shots to kill Bloodsucker, 40% penetration. The range on it can get up to 2, I believe, which is decent, but compared to the SPSA, which can get even farther range, and I think the Saiga as well, I think both can reach out much further. One of the upsides of the RAM is the fact that it has basic, like base high range. But let's go over these shotguns quickly. SPSA, 375 shots until it breaks, 140 base damage. Now this thing reloads one shell at a time, but it is semi-automatic, so you can like mag dump. I don't even think it's technically a mag. It has like round. Yeah, I don't think it is. It has like rounds underneath it, but round whatever the storage is in the shotgun is called. Drop a comment. The issue I found with it is that it does need repaired often because it like it's semi-automatic, so it naturally shoots faster. And when you're semi-auto, at least for me, I have a tendency to shoot more. And I usually am still hitting targets and killing things, but 375 rounds until it breaks is actually quite low. And then the Saiga is 450, and this reloads an entire magazine at once. But 4 shots to kill. Both have 4 shots to kill bloodsuckers. Now this thing can have its damage boosted, and also it has 60% penetration, which gives it higher damage. So typically it's going to be out damaging like an SPSA because of the penetration. The Ram 2 has 150 base damage, so a little bit higher. It has 2 shots loaded, and then it pumps, and then it reloads 2 at a time. I find the Ram 2 to be good against like bloodsuckers. If you shoot the bloodsucker as it's approaching you, you can get 1 shot in, shoot the second shot as it's becoming like, you know, it's revealing itself, and then get the 3rd shot in after you pump. You usually can kill them pretty quickly. So against most mutants, the Ram 2 is actually pretty good. It has higher durability than the Saiga, and it also has a little bit more weapon health. It seems to weigh a little bit less. The Texas unique is pretty good. It has 180 base damage and a bunch of upgrades. Texas, you can get it pretty early if you do the 1 jump. I won't really spoil anything. But yeah, you can get into Pripyat early if you do like a certain jump. But 180 base damage, it's pretty good, pretty efficient. It has a lot of attachments and upgrades already, so you don't have to spend anything to upgrade it. Sledgehammer also is like pretty good. You get that from the arena, but you have to be so far into the main quest. And then Predator, I can't really say when you get that. I don't recall getting this. But it seems decent. The Holemaker, obviously, you can get from Malachite. You can get the Malachite early if you know what you're doing, like really early. You just have to do a certain quest, get a key card, show a dude a badge, you pay him 2k, you're in Malachite. Then you get a Holemaker, start attaching that to your guns. It's overpowered. Is it overpowered? Well, its range is limited. It's limited to buckshot. Maybe I think it's actually fine. I think it's fine because it has a long switch 2 times, so it's kind of balanced by that. All right, so other weapons. Let's wrap this up. Snipers. All the snipers have good damage. The SVDM, the Lynx, which is a variant, and then the Whip and the SVU MKS3 all shoot 270 shots before they break, and they're semi-automatic. I have a problem with this because that's actually not that many shots before it breaks. The other DMR, the Mark 1, like the actual DMR, like these other things are unofficial, like Clusterfuck's like an unofficial DMR, but the Mark 1, 55, a little bit less base damage, still one-shotting humans, 450 shots before it breaks. There's a unique with 586 before it breaks. The M701 Super, 450 shots before it breaks, base damage of 160. 3 shots to kill a bloodsucker, but you don't shoot the bloodsucker with this. You switch to your Holemaker, and you can mag dump it, kill it with a single magazine, and that's it. So it kind of outclasses it costs you no durability. So this is just like more or less the best sniper. Now these can be good too for popping heads, but if you want to efficiently get a bunch of headshots, the better assault rifles kind of outshine these, because I feel like these are in a weird spot. For killing mutants, they're not the best, because you have to either hip fire or ADS, and the only one that's really good at aiming is like the Mark 1 for close range, because I think you can throw a hollow, but you can run irons on it or open sights. So you can just use irons. You can pop your scope off if you know you're going to be fighting mutants, or even in the middle of a fight you can pop it off. It's not that you just open up the menu, right click it really quick, pop off the scope, and then you can just resume. You can just start landing iron, shots on it. But with these other ones that have like 4 scope attachments, it can be difficult to like shoot a bloodsucker at close range. Like you have to like hip fire, and the hip fire has bloom, especially if you're moving. So like, I feel like the Mark 1 and the M701 outclass the others because all of these weapons will be one-shot headshotting with base ammo at good ranges. They will all do that. However, the semi-automatic like SVDM and SVU have 270 shots before they break. Their weapon health... Now, the Mark 1 does have low weapon health at 1500, which is really not that good. So don't get hit by anomalies with that out. I'm pretty sure it doesn't damage your guns, the guns in your inventory, just the one you have out. So that is one advantage of the whip and the SVU, is that they have good health, but their durability will be drained from use. So typically you'll be shooting enemies at range with these, so weapon durability isn't as big of an issue. But if you're relying on these for like mutant killing, I wouldn't. But the M701 Super has really good durability, and it doesn't consume its durability from using the hole maker. So I do think it's the best out of all of these because it's bolt action, so its fire rate is lower than the others. But it also forces you to place your shots, which is like a good habit. It like forces a good habit of like making sure your shots are dead on before you shoot. Whereas with the other ones, you might be tempted. Now, if you're just like really accurate, the other downside is just 270 shots. Like, let's say you're god at accuracy, never miss a single shot. Why would you use this with 270 shots until it breaks when you could use a Khad or a Nipro and you get significantly more one-tap headshots before it breaks? Like, there's just no reason, unless you want the range. But like currently, most encounters happen at like 0 to 3 range, I would say, and very few occur beyond that. So the extra range of like 4 or 5 range doesn't really matter in most combat scenarios. Until they change A-Life, maybe there'll be more placed enemies, maybe it will change, but for now, that's where we're at. The Gauss gun will wrap up here. Good gun health, 300 shots before it breaks. 180 base damage, only slightly higher than the M701 Super. Also note, the rounds per minute, 25 versus 29. The M701 Super fires a little bit faster than the Gauss with slightly less penetration. The Gauss has 10 range, which I don't know what you're shooting at 10 range. I don't know where you're shooting at 10 range in this game. If there are ever scenarios where that matters, that's great. This thing doesn't have drop-off, though, because it's not... actually, I don't think it has drop-off. It says 10 drop-off, so I think it just keeps flying straight. But as far as I know, it doesn't have drop-off. But the stat difference between the M701... the M701 is literally a better weapon system because it fires faster. It does, like, even for Bloodsucker, like, it doesn't even kill. It still has 3 shots to kill, but you have a hole maker on this. You can't get a hole maker on this. Unfortunately, the Gauss is just kind of, like, mid. Statistically. Hard to get, expensive to run, bad efficiency. It doesn't have an advantage over other guns. Its penetration isn't so much higher. Like, it has 20% more penetration than M701, but I can just run armor-piercing rounds, and now I have more penetration than the Gauss. Now I'm out-damaging the Gauss. I can run the hole maker. I have a second gun attached to my gun. Like, even these other guns are, like, pretty similar in terms of, like, what they would be doing. But for, like, single-shot burst damage, it's just, like... I feel like it should be like 300. Then we're talking. If this had 300 damage, this would be fantastic at fucking up mutants. But yeah, it's just not there. But yeah, these are the weapons. Oh, and then these are some of the modifiers. Stat changes for gun when used. Now for hollow point, it says you lose piercing. I don't know if this is misaligned because I saved this as a PDF. Damage per shot, hollow point. This shouldn't be minus 70%. Yeah, this is misaligned. Ignore that. Yeah, so like for the armor or for the weapons, for the bullets, the flatness is how much your bullet arcs at range. So the match ammunition is faster. Like in real life, match bullets tend to be faster. Sometimes they're lighter, like they're like fewer grains. Like they're like, instead of like a 200 grain, maybe it's like 150, so it's like a lighter projectile. So typically it will fly further because it has the same amount of gunpowder forcing it down the barrel, but because it's lighter, it's pushed faster. So they tend to be faster, which means that over time, gravity has less... It's still the exact amount of force, but because it's traveling faster, the effect of gravity isn't as prevalent. So flatness allows you to shoot flatter. Like it means that your bullet arcs less, because in theory, if the developers did this right, it should be a faster bullet. It should fly out faster, because if it's the same speed and then it's flatter, I don't even really think that makes sense, because the force of gravity is always the same. So in order to have less arcing, you need to have higher speed typically. But yeah, so flatness, so the match grade ammo shoots straighter, but that's not really an issue in most encounters. Only certain guns have noticeable drop, and even then, like within the common ranges you're fighting, it's not even really a big deal. So it's almost like a meme thing, and it has increased wear. And then for the hollow points, you have a damage increase, but you lose penetration, it seems. And it also has 30% increase in wear. And these are universal. So for armor piercing, you lose 2% damage, but gain 50% piercing. So against unarmored, you actually lose a slight amount of damage. Or, most importantly, if your gun already penetrates through the armor fully, you lose 2% damage. So it's an interesting little feature of the ammo. So 2%. One thing I'm curious about, this is a breakpoint thing. 18 damage and 2%. So 18. We're still killing. Okay. So if you have 18 damage and you're using armor piercing rounds, you're still killing even with the 2% damage reduction, which does mean that the Khad should be one tapping. So I do think it's still a little bit better than the Knee Pro. You have a shot, like if the Knee Pro had the shotgun attachment, I'd say the Knee Pro is better, to be frank. All right, so those are the weapon stats. I'm going to be changing my tier list after I run all the weapons more, because some of them I only use briefly or even just for like a few seconds, like in the first one, because I was just trying to beat my first playthrough, so I was just rushing through it and just wasn't really branching out as much as I should have been. But we'll be addressing a lot of the issues with that tier list. All right, thanks for checking this out. Peace.